Welcome, everyone, and thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today for what's now become our 5th annual community conversation. Today's theme is Move Up with Higher Ed, honoring National Higher Education Day, a movement to promote higher education as a path forward for everyone and to promote college affordability, both things that Upward Scholars also focuses on in our local community. My name is Linda Prieto, and I have the great joy of serving as Executive Director of Upward Scholars and leading the charge in promoting higher education among adult immigrants from low-income households. I will now make an announcement in Spanish for those needing interpretation services. Bienvenidos a todos y gracias por acompañarnos hoy en nuestra 5ª conversación comunitaria anual. El tema de hoy es Avanzando con la Educación Avanzada, en honor al Día Nacional de la Educación Avanzada, un movimiento para promover la educación como un camino a seguir para todos y para promover la accesibilidad a los colegios y a las universidades. Ambas cosas en las que Upward Scholars también se centra dentro de nuestra comunidad local. Mi nombre es Linda Prieto y tengo la gran alegría de servir como directora ejecutiva de Upward Scholars y de liderar la carga en la promoción de la educación avanzada entre los inmigrantes adultos de hogares de bajos ingresos. Si necesitan interpretación de inglés a español, favor de hacer clic en el botón con icono de globo que aparece en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Thank you to Jenny and Luis, Upward Scholars alumni, and Upward Scholars Habla Más Spanish interpreters for providing interpretation services today. We'll include their contact information in the chat in case you'd like to hire them for your meetings or events as well. I also want to thank our planning committee for all the behind the scenes efforts, all of you for attending, and our alumni panelists. We are thrilled to have them share their inspiring stories. Many of you have already received our 2023 Impact Letter. We're dropping it in the chat now, so you can take a look or look at it again. Last year, as you know, we provided over 10,000 hours of financial, academic, career development, and holistic support to our students. In addition to all of the work Upward Scholars does year-round to ensure our adult immigrant students have everything they need to advance in community college and move up the economic ladder. At the end of last year, we also embarked on a significant project with the Harvard Business School Association of Northern California community partners to refine, redefine, and reimagine our nonprofit business model and the resources that we need to support our community and to magnify our impact. This process has also involved conducting a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or SWOT for short, analysis, facilitated by our board member, Sangeeta Jayaraman, our staff, and other board members. We're thrilled to share what we have learned with you later this year. That'll be coming up. Today also marks the launch of our Spring Upward Move Up with Higher Ed campaign. I call on all of you to help us raise $350,000 over the next month to support our students and their families as they continue to pursue success through higher education. We're dropping that information on how to donate in the chat now. And on to the portion of today's community conversation that we are most excited about, our alumni panel. I will be moderating today's conversation, and before we start, I want to share why we decided to do a panel like this. Oftentimes, when we think about higher education, we think of a bachelor's degree or higher. And in the context of who we serve at Upward Scholars, our definition of higher education starts at the community college. We want to help expand the perception of higher education and demonstrate that any level of higher education can be immensely impactful in helping our community move up. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our 3 alumni panelists. Isabel Guerra, we'll start with her. Isabel Guerra is a Guatemalan immigrant and graduate of Cañada College, one of our key community college partners. In 2021, she obtained a certificate of achievement in paralegal studies and worked as a paralegal with one of our partners, the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area. Now, she is a small business owner alongside her husband. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you.
Next up is Brenda Graciano. Brenda is a Mexican immigrant and Cañada College graduate too. In 2020, she obtained an Associate in Arts in Social Work and Human Services and also participated in our first cohort of Habla Más Spanish language coaches and interpreters. Since then, Brenda has continued to teach Spanish and provide virtual and in-person Spanish-English interpretation all over the Bay Area, and that has become one of her primary sources of income. Good to see you, Brenda. And last but not least is Rick Alarcón. Rick is a Peruvian immigrant and also a graduate of Cañada College. In 2016, he earned an Associate in Arts to transfer in Economics and an Associate in Science to transfer in Mathematics. After that, he transferred to the University of California in Davis, where he obtained a Bachelor's in Science in Mathematical Analytics and Operations Research, with a minor in Statistics. He has worked as a data scientist and is currently a senior software engineer. Thank you, Rick, for being with us all the way from New York City.
Thank you.
Audience, as we start our conversation, please post comments and questions for our panelists in the chat. As time permits, we will incorporate a question and answer portion at the end of the panel. So to kick off our conversation, we'll start with Isabel. Isabel, walk us through your academic journey from the beginning, your initial goals, and how you grew and achieved them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you, our scholars, for inviting me to speak today. I came to the US in 2013, looking for a better economic opportunities like most immigrants. I also wanted to support my parents financially, so I had to work cleaning houses. From the start, my husband encouraged me to learn English to have a better job here in United States. So I enrolled in English classes at Sequoia Adult School. I just wanted to learn English, but then I learned I could transfer to Cañada College. When I learned I could transfer, I just wanted to learn more. And also beyond English, I was so excited. There, my work expanded. And one of the staff introduced me to our scholars, and then everything changed from there. I spoke to my counselor and I decided in paralegal studies because I studied to be an attorney for 5 years in Guatemala. And that seems the natural transition. I just wanted to pursue a higher education to get a better job here in the US. After 8 years of hard work and dedication, and with the incredible support of my husband and other scholars, I achieved one of my goals, which was getting my paralegal certificate. And I was so proud of myself. Also, I had a job where I was able to help a lot of immigrants like me to get their legal immigration status, which was so rewarding.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you for sharing this part of your journey with us. And I want to highlight for everybody who's listening that, Isabel is not only a spouse, but she's also a mother. So Isabel actually represents over half of the students in our program who, just like you, Isabel, are navigating, going to college, working, and raising a family all at the same time. So now we'll turn to Brenda. What about you, Brenda? What was your journey like?
Hi, everyone. Linda, thank you so much for having me. So when I immigrated here to the United States, my primary goal was just to work, make money, and return to Mexico. Very similar to Isabel. I was helping my family in Mexico. But then I wanted to pursue an English certificate because I thought that was going to make my life easier in Mexico. So after going back and forth several times to my home country, I decided to stay in the United States. I also saw that I could more easily be an independent woman here than I could have been in Mexico. So despite many challenges I faced, I focused my dreams and I prioritized my long-term goals. So I enrolled into the ESL classes at Sequoia Adult School. The beauty of it is that at Sequoia Adult School, I met Elizabeth Wills, who introduced me to Upward Scholars, and she planted a seed in me that has no value. She asked me if I wanted to go to college. That wasn't even in my mind. So she made me dream of it. She made me dream of having a career in the United States. That was why I decided to stay in the United States, because I started dreaming. Then I was able to transfer to Cañara College and continue my English classes there. And it was time to choose a career path. Remember, at this point, that wasn't even in my mind. And now I had to choose a career. So I started asking people around me about salaries. And that's how I started with psychology. Then I switched to administration. And after so many trials and errors, I decided to get an associate in human resources. I was doing volunteer work, and I decided to follow more my heart than a paycheck. Finally, I decided on social work, and that's where I completed my studies during the pandemic. But the plot twist is that now I work as a Spanish coach and a Spanish English interpreter for the Bay Area nonprofits.
And we're so proud of you, Brenda, for that work that you've been able to do, and with so many of our nonprofit partners, reaching out and hiring people like you, like Yenny, like Luis, who are doing the interpretation right now, right? And Brenda, your story is not unique. So many immigrants come here with a family still in the home country that they are also financially responsible for, right? So not an easy decision for you to make at all. So happy you met our founder, Elizabeth Wheel. I know she's trying to get on the call today too, but she's in the middle of some travel, and that she was able to encourage you, right? As she did with hundreds of other students, to make that leap from the adult school to the community college.
Totally.
So Rick, let's hear from you now. Please walk us through what your academic journey has been like.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rick. Thank you, Linda, for having me here. Very happy to share my story and motivate other people like us. I'm originally from Peru. I finished high school there, and I did 1 year of university. I was studying economics. I'm first generation college student, so I'm the first one to graduate university in my family. So when we had the opportunity to move to the States, I dropped out university because I knew coming here will be like pursuing the American dream, better career, better financial stability. So I decided to drop out the school, which took me so long, so much work to get in, because I got into the best public school back in Peru. So I left everything and I moved to California with my family. When I moved to California, the challenge that I had was that I was not able to take classes because I didn't understand the classes. They were all in English. So I have to first to take ESL classes. So I start taking ESL classes in Sequoia Adult School for around 6 months. And that's where I met Elizabeth and other teachers that they introduced me to Upward Scholars. And they showed me the path that is possible to transfer from Sequoia Adult School to Cañara College. So that's what I did. So after I felt more comfortable with my English, I transferred to Cañara College to take more ESL classes. I was taking those classes for around a year and a half. And then once I got more confident, I started taking other general classes. Fortunately, Up Scholars gave me a lot of guidance and support of how to build the roadmap, because my goal was to go to a 4-year university, but I didn't know how. So they showed me the path, and they made me, they connected me with other counselors to build my academic program. So I took some classes in Cañara College, and then for around 3 years, and I transferred to UC Davis, where I majored in mathematical analytics and operations research. Also, something important to mention is when I moved here, I was studying economics, but because we're in Silicon Valley, we have a lot of support in terms of like STEM majors. So I was very excited to switch my career from economics to something more analytical and technology-wise, which was mathematics and statistics. So that's why I decided to change my major, because I thought it was a bigger potential for me for future careers. So when I graduated UC Davis, I started working as a data scientist, as a consultant at Google in San Francisco. I was there for a couple of years. I realized that I'm a very curious person. I like learning, I like building stuff. So I decided to change my career from data scientist to software engineer, where I took extra classes to learn how to code. But fortunately, I'm very committed and disciplined person, so I was able to make that switch and move from Google to other startups, where ultimately I moved to New York the past couple of years, where I'm working for a startup, working as a senior software engineer.
Not a bad switch at all. And it's so wonderful to hear you, Rick, also talk about the importance beyond the financial support from Upward Scholars, right? But that you also, like Isabel and like Brenda, received mentorship, right? And emotional support and information that you were lacking in terms of how to navigate the system of higher education here in the US, right? So I think those are really important points that you've hit on. Thank you. Now, all of you have briefly mentioned, some challenges that you faced along your higher education journey. And I'd like to see if you can share a little bit more specifics. So Brenda, let's start with you and how not only the specific challenges you faced, but how you overcame them as well.
So I struggle a lot financially. And of course, the language barrier was challenging. Supporting my family in Mexico while pursuing my education was financially demanding. Also, something very important is the uncertainty about my future opportunities, especially without a social security number in the United States, was a constant worry. I didn't know how to navigate the school system, and that was a whole new world for me. And if I want to add another challenge, mental health also, because I didn't have any family members in the United States that could guide me. And even if they were, I come from a family where higher education wasn't a priority. So they wouldn't be able to help me anyways. How I overcame those challenges was mainly because of Upward Scholars. In Upward Scholars, I found a safe place. They listened to me, they didn't judge me, and they gave me reassurance that I was doing and taking the right decision. So they helped me financially with books. They provided me support with transportation, tutoring. They were mentoring me. They helped me practicing my English because they offered conversation clubs. So that was amazing because my pronunciation wasn't the best. So towards at the end of my academic career, I also was given the opportunity to be part of the first cohort of Habla Más Spanish tutors. That was right before the pandemic started. They trained me for several weekends. And right after our first in-person trial coaching session, we were locked down. So I thought that everything I studied and everything I did was worthless. But then Elizabeth asked if we were willing to do it virtually. So during the pandemic, Spanish coaching was my main source of income and the only one for a couple of months. About a year later, Upward Scholars invited me to interpret at their Spring Cinco de Mayo event. And then I discovered how much I loved interpreting. So since then, the organization supported me. They give me advice in every step of the way. They help me with referrals, and they also help me to know how to navigate the system, how much to charge, and how to introduce myself. That's how I found my passion. Now I work with organizations such as National Domestic Workers Alliance, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Puente de la Costa Sur, many others. But the beauty of this is that even though I don't work as a social worker directly, I still do work around that area because I help my community, my Spanish monolingual speakers to get the services that they need in order to success in this country. So I work as a bridge to close the gap between culture and systemic barriers for that community.
And you're such an asset, right, to the community then, who would otherwise not have linguistic access. So we're super proud to have been a part of your journey as well, and what's become a professional career for you. Thank you so much, Brenda, for sharing so openly about your challenges and experiences here in the US. And super happy to have, again, be part of that journey and have been part of that journey for you. I know there's so many organizations, you can't name them all. I just think of like you've done work with parent organizations, right? And the parent workshops
Yes.
for people to be there. One of our great partners also is SB2. The list goes on, and I'm sure it will go on even more as people get your contact information in the chat and also hire you moving forward. How about you, Rick? Anything else that you would like to expand on in terms of the challenges you faced and how you overcame them?
Yeah, definitely. Financial support was very important to have from Upward Scholars. When I moved here, I have to work part-time to cover the most expensive thing that was the rent and housing that we all know in California. Most people spend most of their money on housing. So I work when I go to school, when I was studying in Cañada College. After school, I was working part-time as an associate in a store, and then for like 3 or 4 hours, earning 8 hours $1, and then after that, I have to go back to the library to do my homework and study, and I was doing that for many years. Also, like my mom was not driving, so I have to drive her to work and then go back to school. So it was very important to me and very useful to have that financial support Upward Scholars that they helped me to pay a lot of the books that was hundreds of dollars, the bus. And something very interesting is to me is the mentorship program that they had and also the connections. Every time there is like fundraising events, I connect with a lot of retired software engineers, people with that had a lot of businesses before. I think it was very inspired to me to go to those events. For example, in Atherton, I remember I went to one event and I met with people. I asked them for the contact for coffee to learn more about their experience and how I can get advice from them. So I think the connections that Upward Scholars provide to the students are very important, so we can have more guidance on how we can achieve our goals.
That is wonderful. I think you've really painted the picture, Rick, of how much our students are juggling, right? How you really have to hone in on your organizational skills. You talked about the lack of reliable transportation, having to shuttle also your mom around to work or appointments. You mentioned also taking advantage of those opportunities to interact with others that are also part of the Upward Scholars families, our volunteers, our donors, right, our partners in different ways to tap their brains and to get that advice. To have started from an $8 an hour job to where you are now and living in New York City. I mean, we can't be more proud of you. We know that it's been so challenging for all three of you. So I'm going to turn us now to Isabel and see if, Isabel, there's anything you want to add on this topic of challenges and overcoming them.
So for me, one of the biggest challenges was the lack of time and of course money, because when I came to the US, I was pregnant with my first child. My husband supported me immensely by taking care of the baby while I was at school, but still it was very challenging to handle with everything. I also worked full time as a housekeeper. So I was a new mom, an English learner, working full time and trying to advance my education. It was very challenging. And I was only able to take 2 classes per semester, which made my progress very slow. But I knew the time would pass anyway, so I stuck with it. Luckily, at Upward Scholars, I met one of the best people I've ever met here in the US, Rick Trushell. He was my English tutor for about 4 years, and he encouraged me to continue with my studies. Upward Scholars also helped me with the financial burden by paying for my books, working at the college, and providing me food assistance. They made it possible for me to continue studying without worrying about the financial aspect.
Thank you, Isabel, right? To be in a new country as a soon-to-be mom, it's very difficult for many of us who grew up here to imagine the additional challenges that can pose. And thank you for the shout out to Rick. If he's not on the call today with us, he's gonna see and hear this later, and I'm sure he'll appreciate hearing how much of an impact he had as your tutor and mentor during your time with Upward Scholars. Isabel, we're gonna stay with you. I want to know more now, and for you to share with our audience. You know, you earned a certificate of achievement in paralegal studies, as you mentioned earlier. How did that impact your life, both personally and professionally?
My life started changing in positive ways while I was still studying, and Upward Scholars played a significant role in my success. In 2018, Elizabeth Will told me about and encouraged me to apply for a job as a paralegal at the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area, IIBA. I worked there for 5 years, and it was an incredible experience that helped me a lot to improve my English and to lose the fear of speaking in public. There, I assisted different attorneys and accredited representatives with immigration cases. After graduating, I continued to work as a paralegal with IIBA with new opportunities and new responsibilities, and I even received an increase in my salary that made me feel very successful and valued in my job. However, being an employee with a new baby, that was very challenging. And I always dream that one day I will have my own business. So when I was on maternity leave last year, I encouraged my husband, who has been working in this business for about 12 years, to start a tree service business. We officially opened our business in March of this year. The name of the company is Canon Tree Service. I never thought I would be able to graduate from college in United States, but I did, and I feel more successful than ever. It is so rewarding to be able to speak better English for myself and my business, and of course, to help others. Thanks to my education and the opportunities I had, I also have a better quality of life. My husband and I were able to afford a bigger rental for our growing family so that they could have more space.
Congratulations, Isabel. Congratulations to you and to your husband for successfully opening your tree service business. That is a major accomplishment, and we'll come back to this in a bit. For now, we'll drop your contact information in the chat. So those of you out there who need tree service, now you know exactly who to call. Isabel will be happy to follow up with you. Now, Brenda, you also, you continued on a bit further and obtained an associate degree in social work and human services, as you mentioned to us earlier. How has that impacted, anything else you want to add? You mentioned earlier, you're working in this space with other nonprofits, providing support related to social work. Anything else that you would like to share about that and its impact on you?
Absolutely. So I think that my life journey has been a testament to the transformative power of education and professional growth. Each obstacle I face and every milestone I achieve contribute to my personal and intellectual development, shaping me and shaped me into the person that I am today. So to be honest, for most of my life, I felt lost and without a purpose. I come from a background, I already mentioned it, where higher education is not a priority. So obtaining a social work associates made me aware of the broader issues that the community faces every day. It made me reconsider my way of living and the mindset that I had at the time. And besides the professional skills that I was taught, it shaped me into the woman I am today. So I learned adaptability, time management, emotional intelligence, leadership skills. And despite not working directly as a social worker, I am still around that world and I am learning how to do it better every day. So without going to school and everything I had to experience, I wouldn't have known that this was something that I could do and that it existed. Now, years later, I consider that I have a purpose in life, a way better income, a better quality of life, and I am content with who I am and what I have.
Thank you, Brenda, for sharing. I I hear you're sharing about, sort of the background you grew up in and not having a big focus on higher education. And that's so common, I think, for folks when you're dealing with survival, right? Like, where are we going to live? Where are we going to eat? Where's our next meal coming from, right? And so I could completely understand that. And so it's so powerful that nonetheless our students and upward scholars with our community support make those sacrifices to say, right, whether Isabel, I think you mentioned taking, 2 classes a semester. Sometimes students take just one, right? Whatever is able to fit into your full lives already. We're super happy and proud, happy to be part of that journey and proud of you for every accomplishment that you achieved. So thank you, Brenda, for sharing that. Rick, you're the one panelist of the 3 here who does have the highest level of educational attainment. Again, with a bachelor's in mathematical analytics and operations research. Tell us about the impact this has had on you and your road to New York. A little bit more detail.
Yeah, definitely my life have completely changed. Like I was talking to you earlier, sometimes when we start out, we feel lonely, lost, and we don't know like if we're gonna make it, right? But looking back now, 8 years, it's totally worth it. As I mentioned before, and also I want to give a little bit of like a story about all the sacrifices that I made to achieve what I did. It took me around 8 years from Sequoia Adult School to graduate UC Davis. And in that 8 years, I never took any vacation, which means every summer is to take more classes or work more. I was very committed to achieve my goals, right? My family wanted to watch movie on the weekend, and I said, no, I want to go to the library, right? So sometimes we have to be very focused and we have to believe in ourselves when we really want something, because we all know it's not an easy path. It's a path of pain and sacrifices. And that's why I'm very happy that now that I achieved everything, now all my family congratulate me, but now they also know that all the sacrifices I made was worth it and was necessary. Because when you are in the path, sometimes you have to have a lot of support from your family and from your friends. So I always encourage people to don't feel sad or lonely. Try to find support. I always say that we have to find good people around us. It's very important to be with a good partner or good friends that can support our goals, because some people they have other different goals that distract us, right? So we have to be very persistent and resist of a lot of distractions in order to achieve what we want. And now, for example, I never traveled anywhere as well, right? So I went to Peru after 10 years after I finished graduating UC Davis and start working when I have some money. And now I've been traveling over 15 countries. Last year, I went to China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. I've been just traveling. I've been doing things that I have never done before, because now my life allowed me to do this. But I think the biggest learning for me, it's like the person you have to become in order to achieve what you want to achieve. I was not the same person like 8 years ago. I changed completely in terms of my mindset, my life, the people around me, my work ethic, my discipline, daily habits, good food, exercising. Like it's a whole process for me in order to achieve what I did. So it's not only studying, but it's also how you take care of yourself, like how you take care of your health too, because without health there is no wealth. If we are sick, the only thing that we want is to be healthy. So it's very important to keep things in perspective. And yeah, that's my advice for all of you.
Oh, thank you, Rick, for sharing that. A few of you have brought up these themes of loneliness, about the struggle, how difficult the challenges are, right, to overcome, and talking about physical health, mental health, right, all super important issues, with especially around the issue of mental health can sometimes be such a taboo in some of our communities. So it's super important to hear you all talking about it, center stage. And for the students who are, on this call, right? Like, here you're getting this great advice. Here are your role models of where you two, will be one day. And then we'll invite you back on a different panel. So super happy, all of the sharing, right? And like you mentioned, Rick, again, all the sacrifices you had to make up front and across those 8 years that really allowed to catapult you to where you are today. Thank you for sharing that. Brenda, so you've mentioned, you're self-employed now as this Habla Más Spanish language coach and interpreter. How did the skills that you learned throughout your academic journey help you on what has become your career path? And what I imagine to also be a really full calendar and working with so many different agencies.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I learned different types of skills that help me gain confidence, be resilient, manage my time better, set priorities, set goals, and create a plan for the future. I resonate a lot with what Rick said, and we have to make sacrifices because nothing is given for granted. We have to earn it, and it's tough, but it is possible. Two of the most important things that have helped me become successful are advocating for myself and for others. I also learned how to negotiate with clients, which it was a big thing for me. I was shy. I didn't want to charge what I am charging now because I didn't feel confident. So that's something I learned through my academic journey. And I would also like to highlight the connections I made along the way in my journey. I keep really good friends from college, and I still keep in touch with my Spanish coaches when we first started doing this professionally. And I want to give a shout out to Jenny and Luis that are now interpreting, because we continue collaborating and we continue doing things together. That's also something important. You have to surround yourself with people with same interests and that also wants to push you forward and keep going. That's very important.
Thank you, Brenda. Yeah, we hear this importance of the people you surround yourself with, right? And the both at the friendship level and at that mentor level too. So thank you for also bringing that back to the forefront. We're also going to drop Brenda's contact information in the chat as another person, right, besides Jenny and Luis, that you can also hire for language-related services. So take a look at the chat if you haven't already. Isabel, let's come back to you and your business that you recently started with your husband. How did your education impact that decision that you made while you were on maternity leave?
Starting your own business requires being savvy, and everything I learned in college, like doing research, staying organized, or speaking and writing in professional English, has been key to a successful start. I also gained a lot of confidence during my academic journey, in part thanks to Upward Scholars, of course. So that definitely impacts my business. Nowadays, I am happy to be working for myself, managing my own hours, and having better prospects for a better life. We would like to grow our business to be able to employ other immigrants like myself and my husband and give them better salaries and job opportunities. We would like to inspire others that everything is possible if you set your goals. Also, after several years, I am considering going back to college because, as a small business owner, I would like to pursue a certificate in business administration to give my business the best possible chance.
Wow, thank you, Isabel. Well, if you decide to pursue that here in the peninsula, come back to us. We're ready to welcome you again with open arms and help you on that journey. I love how much you how clearly you made that connection of what you were learning through your experience in higher education and applying it to your business, right? You, Brenda, for sure also have mentioned the importance of helping others, right? So the fact that your husband and you are now like, how can we hire other people with similar backgrounds, right? So that they too are earning increased salaries, right? Because at the end of the day, we want our families to be earning family sustaining wages where they can continue to live here in our community. So I love that you're thinking of how to pay it forward in different ways. Now, Rick, unlike our other two panelists, you're not a business owner, at least not yet. But you did talk earlier about making a switch, right? From data science to software engineering. Why did you make that switch? And what skills did you need to achieve that successfully?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, as a being a data scientist was my sort of my dream job, the job that I wanted to get when I graduate college. After being in that space for 2 or 3 years, I learned that I really like to build things. I'm a very curious person. I like solving real problems, even though I really love data related projects like data analysis, some machine learning models. I really wanted to do more things related with how to build applications, like the applications that we use on a daily basis. And that being a data scientist, it didn't allow me to do that. So I find a way to study by myself and take some classes to be a developer. So I connect with a lot of friends. I was living in San Francisco by then, and I met some friends that work in different companies, in for different tech companies. So they advised me what the classes to take and what should I know for the interview. Because at this point, because I had experience, then it's all about the interview process, understanding how you can adjust your resume to so it can be a good fit for a software engineer role. And that's the reason why I decided to change, because I was very curious about how I can learn to build my own apps. And also because I also been curious of like building my own applications or maybe a startup in the future. So
We won't be surprised if you set that goal, I'm sure you'll accomplish it. And you talked about these unspoken skill sets, right? Like how do you interview? How Brenda, you talked earlier about negotiation, right? Like there's so many unspoken rules that many times if we don't have parents who've already gone through that experience, like who do we ask, right? So I'm super happy that you found networks both in and outside of Upward Scholars, right, to help you, whether those are friends or coworkers or peers or folks who are already retired from their professions. I love hearing how much a community is really behind us, moving us all forward. I will say that we are nearing the end of our preset questions here. So again, if you have any questions for our panelists, please continue to put them in the chat. And I am going to pose a question here that's for all of you. In addition to anything you've already said, what advice can you give our current Upward Scholar students who are earlier in their journey to encourage them to continue to persevere? Again, many of them who are on the call right now. How about Rick? We start with you.
Yeah, so I will say first things, it's just sit and think a little bit about your life. What do you really, really want to achieve? That's the first step. Sometimes we rush too much about do things, but we don't calm down and we don't think. I think thinking about what we want for our lives is very, very important. Um, and also, once you understand like the path that you want to go or you have an idea, the best thing that you can do is find mentors, find people who already made it or who already are in that field that can guide you through that path. That's where I found like a huge difference on how I can speed up the process in everything in terms of my career, my fitness goals. I learned to meet with mentors or hire mentors, people who already done it and they can show me the path much faster. That was a game changer for me when I learned how mentorship, the power of mentorship in our life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rick, for honing in on the value and power of mentorship. How about Brenda, and then maybe Isabel, if you would like to comment on that as well. Advice for our current students.
This is my favorite part because I do want to say something. So for all the students out there that can relate to my story, I want to tell them that success looks different for everyone. And sometimes the system teaches us that we have to follow certain steps and that way we're going to be successful. However, it doesn't look the same for everyone. And just keep going and keep preparing yourself. because luck arrives when an opportunity presents itself and one is prepared to seize it. If you continue preparing yourself, no matter the uncertainty about what the future opportunities you're being promised, if you're gonna be able to get them or not, even though you don't get that opportunity that they show you, you are still going to get something. And if you are prepared and if you are ready, that's gonna make an impact in your life.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda, for that great advice. I know students have been commenting in the chat as well. Everybody is listening. How about you, Isabel? Advice as well.
I agree with Rick and Brenda. Those are really great advice that we can give to the new students. But for me, my best advice is to not be afraid of changes in life. And if you have a dream, just go for it. I always had in my mind to start my own business and be my own boss. And now I am achieving my dream. It's better to try something and see what happens than to always think about what could have been. The what if will haunt you, so just go for it. Also, the United States is a blessed country with a lot of opportunities. So take advantage of the educational resources and always dream big and work hard to get where you want to be.
And Isabel, I'm going to stick with you for a bit longer because, again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, you're the one panelist who's already a mom, right? You're a parent. How about, you know, over 50% of our students right now in the program are also parents. Any questions about people who might think they're too old or might think they're too busy because they're a mom or because they've got kids to raise? What advice would you give them around that specifically?
Okay, you know, for me, being a mom hasn't been an impediment to continue with my studies and being a professional woman in life. On the contrary, it has always been my motivation to keep going because I know that if I want to give them a better life, I have to work hard. Obviously, in comparison with my other classmates that were single and with no kids, so I had to work double and sacrifice. I had to sacrifice my sleep hours. Definitely, that made my progress even more slow. But that was like impulse for me to just keep going, and also because I want my kids to be proud of their mommy. For the people who don't know me, I am the mom of 3 beautiful children who they are my everything, and I just want to give them the life that I never had in my childhood. So they are my inspiration every day, and they motivate me to be a better person.
So Isabel, how old are your children now? And how do you think your educational success has impacted them on their own educational journey as children?
I have the oldest, he's 10 years old. He's going to middle school the next school year. Then I have a 5-year-old and a baby. He's just gonna turn 1 year old. And my education has impacted my children in the way that I am more involved in their education because I'm able to help them with their homework, especially with the oldest. And now that he's going to middle school, I think that I need to be more involved with in his educational journey.
Absolutely. So hopefully, right, as we think about the impact not only on you but on them, that we can see and dream and have come to fruition, a much easier path for them, right, when they make that choice for higher education as well in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. So let me go back to Brenda, maybe ask you to expand a little bit more on those when you know we're trying to weigh the pros and cons, right, of life abroad in your home country versus staying here in the US and making it your new home country. What were those considerations and how did you come about finally making the decision?
So when I was going back to Mexico, I was encountered a different mindset, a different set of beliefs. And this doesn't apply to every Mexican, but it applied to me, right? Going back to Mexico was picturing myself married, being a housewife, and I wanted to be an independent woman. I wanted to do a living by my own. I didn't want to depend on anyone. And that's what I found here in the United States, an opportunity to be an independent woman and have safety, be safe. That's why I decided to stay here. And also I saw so many powerful women around me here in the United States that made it. And I wanted to be like them. I remember looking at friends that had their own businesses and that were going to school. I had a really good friend of mine in Cañara College, and she had 3 children. And I saw how hard she worked, and she was still able to make a living here. That's such an inspiration. And that was the main reason why I stayed in the United States.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for sharing that. You know, the majority of the students in our program, of people have looked at our impact report, right? About 2/3 of our students in the program currently are women. And so it is very much a goal, right? So whatever upbringing we might have had, and if we were ever surrounded by any limited views towards us because of our gender, it's so wonderful to see that there's this powerful group of students who are challenging, stereotypes and breaking barriers and really wanting to envision a new lives for themselves. So, I'm really proud for everything that everybody has said. I don't think that I don't see any more questions come through the chat for me. So I want to thank our panelists, Isabel, Brenda, and Rick, for sharing how you yourselves have advanced in higher education and the role that Upward Scholars played in your journey, right? So thank you again so much. And when you registered for this event, we did say that we would be making a special announcement. So hopefully you've all been curious about what that might be. Well, some of you, I think, already know, if you've been with us for a while, that Upward Scholars is actually turning 15 next year, a 15-year anniversary as an organization. And in traditional Latin American fashion, we are excited to tell you that we are planning a quinceañera themed party to celebrate this momentous occasion with all of you who are part of our Upward Scholars family. A quinceañera, or fiesta de 15 años, is a traditional celebration in many parts of Latin America and also now here in the US as well, which is more commonly a celebration of a young girl, in her 15th birthday. This birthday is celebrated differently from any other, as it marks that transition from childhood to young womanhood. It is similar to what many may know as the debutante ball here in the US context. So since Upward Scholars is turning 15, and given all of the work we've undertaken recently to strengthen the organization's core, it only made sense that we would throw this Upward Scholars quinceañera to also symbolize our transition into nonprofit adulthood. So tomorrow, we will officially be 1 year away from the celebration. So please, as you see here on your screen, save the date for Upward Scholars quinceañera on Saturday, June 7th, 2025 at the South San Francisco Convention Center. We will share more details with you as the date approaches, and we are thrilled to share this milestone with you here. Many of you who have been with us for over 5 years know that we were eager to have a 10-year anniversary celebration, and unfortunately, with the pandemic shutdown, we were never able to have that party. So it is long overdue, and we look forward to having all of you join us then. But before then, let me also remind you that on Sunday, June 23rd at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will have our annual virtual graduation celebration also over Zoom, where this year we're going to celebrate over 30 Upward Scholars graduates who are receiving certificates of achievement and associate degrees. So the graduation webpage with details on how to join us that day is also in the chat. And lastly, I remind you that today we officially launched our Spring Upward Move Up with Higher Education campaign. So donate today to support Upward Scholars students like the alumni you heard from today, on their higher education journeys. And that donate link is also in the chat. And let me just tell you how much people love being a part of Upward Scholars, so that our panelists, all of our alumni on the panel today, have already pledged or already given directly to this campaign as another way to pay it forward. So I encourage you to follow their lead and to give generously in support of adult immigrants as they pursue higher education that improves their lives, that uplifts their families, and that moves our entire community forward. And never hesitate to reach out. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being with us today. Take care.